Hello everybody, my name's Steve, I'm the British Railroader, and welcome to this Shows You How video, where I'm going to look at how, by changing just one or two CVs, you can make your locomotive sound just that little bit unique, so that when you have two locos of the same type, they don't both sound exactly the same. Now, as most of you know, I tend to use Soundtraxx Tsunami decoders. But this kind of applies to other decoders, but the instruction I'm going to give you today is about Soundtraxx. I'm not very good with ESU decoders or Digitracks or anything like that, so I'm just going to tell you about what I know about. And the two examples I'm going to use are my two GP38-2s. So I have the CSX one, which is number 2721. This has a factory fitted Soundtraxx Tsunami decoder and obviously a factory fitted speaker. The other one is my New York and Atlantic Railroad GP38-2, number 261. And this is one that I fitted with a Soundtraxx PMP8. And it uses two ESU sugar cube speakers that are wired in series. So when we're starting off here, we are not comparing apples with apples because the speakers are different and they will always give out a slightly different sound. However, straight out of the box, they will sound pretty much alike. The first thing I'm going to look at are the air horns. So Soundtraxx give you a huge range of air horns that you can choose depending on your prototype, and they can be accessed through CV120. Now, my particular two locos both happen to have, in real life, K5LA horns, Nathan K5LAs. And Soundtraxx very handily provide you with three slightly different sounding K5LA horns. So they're called numbers 1, 2, and 3, and they're accessed by setting the CV to either 4, 5, or 6. So the first one sounds like this. The second one sounds like this. And the third one sounds like this. Now, before you choose which one you want to set your particular loco to, it's always a good idea to try and find out what the actual prototype sounded like. Now, luckily, we have this wonderful tool called YouTube, and you can go on and you can actually put in the locomotive number and type and railroad, and you'll be able to find video of them. Sometimes it may only be one video, but that's just enough. And when I looked up both of my locos, I found that the horns sounded fairly similar, and they both sounded like the number 1 version, which is accessed by putting a value of 4 into CV120, that's provided by Soundtraxx. But they are ever so slightly different. And Soundtraxx put a facility in their decoders where you can actually add reverb to the sounds. And by accessing CV161, you can add reverb to the sound of your horn. So it gives it that kind of little, I don't know, wobble. Makes it sound a little bit more echoey. So with CV161, and I do apologise for looking down at my notes here, so the default value for CV161 is 128. So coming straight out of the box, that's what it's set as. If you go below that, you get less reverb. If you go above that, you actually get more reverb. Now, what I've done with my locos is number 2721, I have set a reverb value of 250. So there's a lot of reverb there, and it sounds like this. And then with number 261, I've again set a reverb value, but this time of 100, and it sounds like this. So hopefully there you've been able to hear the slight differences between the two locomotive horns. And that means that as they're going along and as I'm running them, you've got that difference. And they're kind of set fairly much to my ear, as what the real locomotives sound like. And I hope that people that know the locomotives agree with that. So you can do this with any type of horn. It means that, in some cases, Soundtraxx only have an option of one version of a particular horn, but you may have 3 or 4 locos that need that type of horn, and you might want them to all sound slightly different. So by changing the reverb, you can actually get slight differences. I'm going to move on to the prime mover now. So GP38-2s have an EMD 645 non-turbo prime mover. And again, coming out of the box, they basically sound exactly the same. So again, I went on to YouTube and tried to listen to the sound of the engines, because what you can actually do, again, using Soundtraxx decoders, is change the prime mover pitch. So the prime mover pitch is accessed through CV233. The default value is 128. And it's measured, it measures the tone and the pitch in what are called cents, as in, the money, a cent. And if you go below 128, you basically have negative cents. And if you go above 128, you have positive cents. And so when I listen to the Locomotives on YouTube, I've got 2721, the CSX engine, set at the default value. Sounds about right to my ear. Number 261 in real life has a slightly more distinctive sound, and I've actually lowered it to 100, and it just gives a different pitch. So here's what CSX 2721 sounds like, and here's what 261 sounds like. And I'm hoping you can hear the differences between the prime movers just idling there. Okay, hopefully that's made sense to everybody, and hopefully it's shown you how that you can use the same decoder and the same sounds to get 2 very different sounding locomotives. If you're using Soundtraxx Tsunami decoders, I would very much recommend that you download their diesel users guide. I've written part 1 on this one. That's only because the whole thing won't fit into one little Polly Pocket, and it's very comprehensive, and it takes you through all of the different bits and pieces. There is also a technical reference which basically goes through every single CV and tells you exactly what it does and what changing it will do for it. But these are a must-have if you're using Soundtraxx Tsunami decoders. Usual disclaimer, I'm not associated with Soundtraxx. These just happen to be my favourites. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below, or alternatively, you can email me at the email address that is appearing in front of me. If you haven't done so already, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I think we've just tipped over 750 subscribers, so we're getting there. But anyway, this is Steve, British Railroader, saying goodbye to you from my model railway room. Bye-bye.